It hasn't even been a week since the world began crying out in devastating, often mirror-shattering cries. Following the grand jury announcement, the cries erupted through a plethora of Facebook postings. Even Twitter tracking showed it as if it was a fireworks display. And then there was the media that filmed the reporter getting hit in the head by a rock on the streets of Ferguson. And how many of you cried a defiant no that would be laced with anger, disappointment, and frustration that resounded around the world? As a Unitarian Universalist, I tried to listen through the cries of disgust for a glimmer of sanity in this crazy world of ours, a glimmer of hope that change might indeed someday happen. It was night, so I put down my iPad, went to my bedroom window after I turned off the light, and looked out into the dark, spacious sky where I had hoped that that spaciousness would somehow dissolve my growing anger. I found myself unknowingly repeating that phrase, which was like an old friend to me that has always stood by me, especially in difficult times, to give me some direction. It's that same phrase that Rodney used this morning. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom, yes, the wisdom to know the difference. Those words dangled out in front of me and then were lost behind a chilling fog that had settled in for the evening. My soul also was cold. So many years have gone by, and yet the racially motivated killings of our children continue. The systems of privilege, where human beings are only a part of the equation of a commodity, prevail. There have been many who have stood and continue to stand on the front lines for social and economic justice and change. And yet, the wisdom, the courage that the prayer spoke of, they were lost to me. I even questioned that very prayer. Is it enough to know what I can change and what I cannot change? The next morning, I then awoke to the news that the Browns family church, the only building in their neighborhood, was destroyed. It was torched. And it reminded me of days gone by in Birmingham with the Baptist church being bombed. The flames of history were igniting my smoldering rage. And then I heard an inner whisper. And how well are your old beliefs working for you now, Lisa? They aren't. So being who I am, I said, time for plan B. Plan B. So while the pastor and the Brown family are starting to rebuild their church, I also return to my church to figure out what plan B might be. Because I still believe that Unitarian Universalism holds some nuggets of wisdom and truth and strength and power, therefore my plan B needs to be honoring the dignity and worth of all, to be responsive to the present, to recognize the interconnectedness of everything, and to make room for our very precious humanness, which allows for curiosity, for growth, and for learning. Now, I know this is a very tall order in very tough times, and yet I think anything less than a tall order has long since passed. Indeed, we need to start not only thinking smart, we need to start thinking big in order to address the issues that our times now demand. Now, generally, thinking big means coming up with bold, maybe even outrageous goals, and then somehow connecting them to endpoints with actions, good, solid, well-thought-out actions. But for all the efficient planning and our hard dedication that we have put to these dreams of bold achievements, they always seem to be just over the next horizon. There is always a space between what we want and what we currently have. So we tend, very humanly, to complain. I do it too. Or to compare our states against our dream state, or at times despair. Today, I offer an alternative perspective. And it begins with, look back before you look forward. Look back before you look forward. Think about where you've come from, what you have achieved. This is what thinking big is all about. B.I.G. Marge guessed it today. Begin in gratitude. B.I.G. What helps me in this practice is to do what we did today. Before we start complaining, think of 3 things that you are grateful for. The way to make big dreams come true is to make a regular practice of it. I used to do it with my attention deficit son, who used to complain a lot in school. You can imagine. I would say, now, honey, Jared, think about the good things first, which he would try to do. So it surprised me once when he came home and said, Mom, I had a really terrible, bad, no good day. It sucked. I was shocked. I held my mother's tongue at his language, and I merely said, Really, honey? That bad, huh? He said, Yeah, it was so bad, I don't even want to talk about it. Okay. He hung his head. And it was like the weight of the world was on him from this mother's perspective. Until he raised his head, looked me straight in the eye with a mischievous look on his face and said, Oh, Mom, no, I'm just fooling. It wasn't such a bad day, but I caught you, didn't I? Yes, life is not always going to go as one is planned. We will be played, good and bad. But if you can become more actively aware and practice gratitude with yourself as well as others, then we all become more conscious, caring human beings that look for the good in life. And being thankful also allows us to breathe deeper and be more open to the creative challenges that surround us. It allows us to experience wonder. I wonder, which then can let us experience learning is greater than the experiences we go through. As you know, in both good and bad experiences, there's always a learning that somehow our core can relate to. Take any experience and ask yourself, how does this make me feel? If it's angry, be angry. It's okay. If it's rageful, it's okay to be rageful. Or if it feels good, relish it. But then ask, what does this experience say about me, about my values, the core inside of me? And what do I want to give to the world? One of my colleagues who was dying of congestive heart failure was distressed when he was reviewing his life. Now retired, he had not finished all that he had wanted to do. He didn't have many financial resources or savings left over, and he was no longer married. He had no other goal than to see his granddaughter graduate from college. And so I said, well, when was the last time you saw your granddaughter? And he said, well, just a couple of weeks ago. We had a wonderful visit. So I asked him, what was so special about your visit? And he said, it made me happy. We had a wonderful time talking about politics and culture and her life and her studies. And I said, and why did all that make you happy? And he responded, because I felt connected to her. I was engaged with her. You know, I am so grateful to her. She makes me feel alive and loved and useful. And useful. Recognizing all of this, the smile on his face grew into a beam.